Lunch break, 2 Chronicles chapter 17. And Jehoshaphat his son reigned in his place, and strengthened himself against Israel, and placed an army in all the walled cities of Yehudah, and set watchpost in the land of Yehudah, and in the cities of Ephraim, which Asa his father had taken. And Jehovah was with Jehoshaphat, for he walked in the former ways of his father David, and did not seek the Baals, but sought the Elohim of his father, and walked in his commands, and not according to the deeds of Israel. So Jehovah established the reign in his hand, and all Yehudah gave presents to Jehoshaphat, and he had great riches and esteem. And his heart was exalted in the ways of Jehovah, and he again removed the high places of the Asherim from Yehudah. And in the 3rd year of his reign he sent his leaders, Ben-Hail and Obadiah, and Zechariah, and Nathaniel, and Micaiah, to teach in the cities of Yehudah. And with them he sent Levites, Shemaiah, and Nathaniah, and Zebadiah, and Asael, and Shemiramoth, and Jehonathan, and Adoniah, and Tobiah, Tobadoniah, the Levites, and with them Elishama, and Jehoram, the priests. And they taught in Yehudah, and with them was the book of the Torah of Jehovah. And they went around into all the cities of Yehudah, and taught the people. And the fear of Jehovah fell on all the reigns of the lands that were around Yehudah, and they did not fight against Jehoshaphat. And some of the Philistines brought Jehoshaphat gifts and a load of silver, and the Arabians brought him flocks, 7,700 rams, and 7,700 male goats. And Jehoshaphat became increasingly great, and he built palaces and storage cities in Yehudah. And he had much work in the cities of Yehudah, and the men of battle, mighty brave men, were in Yerushalayim. And these were their numbers, according to their fathers' houses: of Yehudah the commander of thousands, Adnah the commander, and with him 300,000 mighty brave men. And next to him was Yehohanan the commander, and with him 280,000. And next to him was Amasiah, son of Zikri, who volunteered himself to Jehovah, and with him 200,000 mighty brave men. And of Benjamin, Eliadah, the mighty brave one, and with him 200,000 men armed with bow and shield. And next to him was Jehozabad, and with him 180,000 prepared for battle. These were the ones serving the sovereign, besides those whom the sovereign put in the walled cities throughout all Yehudah. And Jehoshaphat had great riches and esteem, and allied himself with Ahab by marriage. And some years later he went down to visit Ahab in Shomeron. And Ahab slaughtered many sheep and cattle for him and the people with him, and incited him to go up with him to Ramoth Gilead. And Ahab, sovereign of Israel, said to Jehoshaphat, sovereign of Yehudah, "Do you go with me against Ramoth Gilead?" And he answered him, "I am as you are, and my people as your people, even with you in battle." And Jehoshaphat said to the sovereign of Israel, "Please inquire for the word of Jehovah today." And the sovereign of Israel gathered the prophets together, 400 men, and said to them, "Do we go against Ramoth Gilead to battle, or do I refrain?" And they said, "Go up, for Elohim does give it into the sovereign's hand." But Jehoshaphat said, Is there not still a prophet of Jehovah here, so that we inquire of him? And the sovereign of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, There is still one man to inquire of Jehovah from him, but I hate him, because he never prophesies good concerning me, but always evil. He is Micah, the son of Yimlah. And Jehoshaphat said, Let not the sovereign say no. Say so. So the sovereign of Israel called one of his officers and said, Bring Micah, son of Yimlah, at once. And the sovereign of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the sovereign of Yehudah, dressed in their robes, sat each on his throne, and they sat at the threshing floor of the entrance of the gate of Shomeron, and all the prophets were prophesying before them. And Sidkiyahu, son of Kena'anah, had made horns of iron for himself, and said, Thus said Jehovah, With these you push the Arameans until they are destroyed. And all the prophets were prophesying, so saying, Go up to Ramoth Gilead and prosper, and Jehovah shall give it into the hand of the sovereign. And the messenger who had gone to call Micah, son of him, spoke to him, saying, See, the words of the prophets with one mouth are good toward the sovereign. So please, let your word be like the word of one of them, and you shall speak good. And Micah said, As Jehovah lives, whatever my Elohim says, that I speak. And he came to the sovereign, and the sovereign said to him, Micah, do we go against Ramoth Gilead to battle, or do I refrain? And he said, Go and prosper, and they are given into your hand. And the sovereign said to him, How many times have I made you swear that you do not speak to me except the truth in the name of Jehovah? So he said, I saw all Israel scattered on the mountains, as sheep that have no shepherd. And Jehovah said, These have no master, let each return to his house in peace. And the sovereign of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, Did I not say to you that he would not prophesy good concerning me, but evil? Then he said, Therefore hear the word of Jehovah. I saw Jehovah sitting on his throne, and all the host of the heavens standing on his right and on his left. And Jehovah said, Who shall entice Ahab, sovereign of Israel, to go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one said this, and another said that. And a spirit came forward and stood before Jehovah and said, Let me entice him, Jehovah. Let me entice him. Jehovah said to him, In what way? And he said, I shall go out and be a spirit of falsehood in the mouth of all his prophets. And he said, Entice him and also prevail. Go out and do so. And now, see, Jehovah has put a spirit of falsehood in the mouth of these prophets of yours, and Jehovah has spoken evil concerning you. And Sidkiyahu, son of Kena'anah, came near and struck Micah on the cheek and said, Which way did the spirit of Jehovah pass over from me to speak to you? And Micah said, Look, you shall see on that day when you go into an inner room to hide. Then the sovereign of Israel said, Take Micah and return him to Ammon, the governor of the city, and to Joash, the sovereign's son, and say, Thus said the sovereign, Put this one in prison and feed him with bread of affliction and water of affliction until I return in peace. And Micah said, If you return at all in peace, Jehovah has not spoken by me. And he said, Hear, all you people. The sovereign of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the sovereign of Yehudah, went up to Ramoth Gilead. And the sovereign of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, Let me disguise myself and go into battle. but you put on your robes." And the sovereign of Israel disguised himself, and they went into battle. And the sovereign of Aram had commanded the commanders of the chariots who were with him, saying, "Fight with no one small or great, but only with the sovereign of Israel." And it came to be, when the commander of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat, that they said, "It is the sovereign of Israel." So they turned around to fight against him. And Jehoshaphat cried out, and Jehovah helped him, and Elohim moved them to turn away from him. And it came to be, when the commanders of the chariots saw that it was not the sovereign of Israel, that they turned back from pursuing him. And a man drew a bow in his simplicity and struck the sovereign of Israel between the joints of his armor. And he said to the driver of his chariot, "Turn around and take me out of the battle, for I am wounded." But the battle increased that day, and the sovereign of Israel was propped up in his chariot facing the Arameans until evening, and he died at the time of the going down of the sun.